Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with the author of Life of Love, The Joyful Guide of Self and Sensuality, Julie Hilsen. She shares her passion for living a life of magic and joy. Her debut book is a powerful tool for self-discovery and finding the joy in everyday life. She lives in Cumming, Georgia with her husband Mitch and her two sons. When she's not talking to angels and creating, she is hiking, playing tennis, or cooking. Enjoy this interview.
Julie, thanks for taking a minute out. I appreciate it.
Yeah, no, Joe, thanks for having me on. I appreciate you inviting me.
My pleasure. And before we get into your life and what you do exactly, I want to know, we've gone through quite a time with COVID over the last couple of years, and I'm curious, how did you survive that 2-year period now that we're waking up, and how did that change the way that you not only do business, but the way that you live your life?
Oh my gosh, it was transforming. I mean, I wrote a book. I finally took time for myself. When we were isolated, I just went deep within, and I evaluated. I always was on a path of trying to have a better life, but I had the time to integrate all the things that I had been learning, all the self-help, all the seminars I'd been to, master classes. I integrated them all, and I realized that I had a message, and I wrote a book. And now it's expanding. You're like, oh, you're stuck in this place, but I went within, and now I'm able to expand so much more because I took the time to get to know myself and what my values were and what was important, and I wrote them down, and I'm just honored that I could put it together in a book and share it and just have connections like this, because I would never even be in a podcast with you if I hadn't taken the time to write the book and taken the time to go within. So it's been transforming. I enter the world with so much more compassion now. I used to place judgments, and COVID's really shown me that you can't really judge other people, and you can't judge yourself, because we all have to adapt and deal with what we're going through at the moment. And you can't judge someone where they are. And, so that compassion and getting to know my fellow humans a little better and just going through the motions of life. I don't do that anymore.
I think that is a very good thing that's happened about as a byproduct of going through COVID. And I've noticed, too, that, even doing the act of podcasting, we're so divided as a country. And I think there's a level of all of us that can come together no matter what we believe, to actually talk and to bridge things and to bring that empathy out. I think it's really important for us to have that ability to do that as human beings, because we did realize that community is it's the way to go.
Mm. Yeah, so that's something you went through too.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of this that I've recognized doing more podcasts. I mean, I've always done my jazz radio show, and there's always been an element of that. But I'm thinking that, getting more into interviews with folks that I've never interviewed before, and especially this community, has been really, really good for me to understand, what people are doing and have an appreciation for so many things that are going on with people.
Yeah, I know. I was impressed with that. You just keep your podcast wide open. You're just like anybody who has something to share, and that's pretty cool, because the synchronicities can just flow in. You're just like open to whatever comes. It's what it looks like. That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. There's so much good out there. So what I'm going to do with your life and with writing this book is I'm going to take you in front of a group of grade school kids at a career day, third graders, and one of them looks up to you and says, "What do you do for a living, and how are you qualified to do that?" What would you say to them?
Oh, man. Well, what I do for a living, I'm an activator, and I go through the world trying to show people the light within themselves and also share my light when it's welcome. So every day is different, and I call my own shots. I live according to my joy, and I try to show up for people in my life the best I can. And every day I wake up and ask God to show me the highest expression of this day, and that's how I start. So I always take time to take care of myself, and then I create, whether it's my podcast or writing or playing on the piano. I create something, and it usually results in something I put out to the world, but it doesn't have to be. And I find that if I don't put pressure on myself to produce, then my authentic self comes out, and it's something that can serve the world. And I've learned that when I'm true to myself, I can bring the most to everyone else. So it's a really fun thing to be me, and sometimes it's really hard because I have to do a lot of self-discovery, and sometimes that's, painful to go through things that are bothering you, or, I never ignore my feelings, because if I do, I end up getting sick, and then I'm like, oh yeah, I ignored my feelings. So being an activator, I'm very sensitive to everything around me, so I have to take time to have self-care. So, so that's my job.
Yeah. So let's go back to the beginnings of your life. You're obviously a person that, that cares and that gives and is highly motivated. Talk to me about where you were born and raised and kind of how these seeds began in you when you were younger.
Oh, yeah. I was born in a small town in Ohio, and I have great parents. They're so loving, just, solid values. They're always supportive of me and my joy. I was the third child. I have two older brothers, and I have a younger sister. So we had sort of a big family. Always a lot going into my house. I never was an extrovert. I was always very quiet. I think I was oftentimes overwhelmed by my brothers and their activity. My mom would always talk about how I just lay in my crib and just wait for her to come get me in the morning and just smile at her. I was always just like waiting for everyone's approval. That was my role, to be the peacekeeper, and I would always watch. I'm a very sensitive person. I'd always watch to see what I should do next, always observing, and that's how I fit in my family. And I've always felt very connected to animals, the earth, flowers. I need to be outside. I need to be exploring. That's been a constant with me my whole life. But as I grew up, I realized that I really didn't have the best habits in always trying to look for my affirmation and other people's approval. I lacked the idea that I could be happy with just my own joy, that I always thought I needed to be happy through the eyes of other people. I don't know if that makes any sense. So I found myself exhausted as a mom and a wife because I was living for everyone else but myself. And so I had to do some soul searching and figure out how that happened. And, and it was nobody's fault, right? Like my parents couldn't be like, Julie, don't be so sensitive, do your own thing. Like I had to go through that. That was my role. And so it's really, part of my journey. They say that every incarnation you have a mission. And so there's no blame. It's your circumstance and what you get to work through in this lifetime. So I honor that I had such a supportive, loving family, and that I could help them be more happy. But then I also had to find my own happiness in that. And, I've had a great life, and I'm just so pleased to be where I am right now.
So what about role? Yeah, absolutely. Mm-hmm. So what about role models, people that you've looked up to, heroes? Who have those been, or one or multiple people?
Oh my gosh, Joe, I'm so glad you asked this. I love Cyndi Lauper. She was second grade. I remember I won an essay. I wrote a poem, and they asked me who my idol was, and I was like, oh my gosh, Cyndi Lauper. And I love her free spirit. I love her music, her heart. She was definitely my spirit person growing up. And and then Maya Angelou, I love her messages. Just strong, sensitive women I have always looked up to.
That's wonderful, yeah. Cindy's always been very consistent about being out there doing good things, and definitely put that infectious nature out there. She still does. And I'm curious to take that question a little further. If you can, and I may already be able to assume this answer, but if you can meet one person alive on the planet right now, who would it be?
Oh my gosh. Oh, that's a great question, Joe. If I could meet one person alive on the planet, I mean, do I have to know their name, or is it?
Yeah, it could be anybody. It could be anybody. Yeah. It's kind of an open-ended thing. I figured it would have been Cyndi Lauper, but if it's somebody else.
No, I mean, I would love to meet Cyndi Lauper, but I feel like there's something going on our planet right now, and there's like multiple things. I don't want to get too deep, but there's multiple things going on, and I would love to know if there was a off-worlder that would want to talk to me and just have a conversation.
Yeah. Yeah, that would be wonderful.
I would really like that insight. And I've asked for them to come and talk to me, but they haven't yet, so.
Yeah. Well, never give up.
If there's a galactic entity that wants to help, shed light on what we're going through, to give me a message that I could share, I would adore that.
Well, if that happens, we'll have to do a follow-up interview for sure, because that would be stellar.
Yes, it would be. It would be very, very stellar.
So let me ask you this, based on what you've lived and learned throughout your life. If you have a dream tonight, you run into your 20-year-old version, and you could give that younger version of you a piece of advice based on what you've lived and seen, the wisdom that you've gained throughout your life, what would you tell your younger version?
I would tell her to follow her joy. I would tell her that she's perfect and she doesn't have to prove anything to anybody. Just be her authentic self, because, just being here, showing up is enough. So you don't have to prove anything to anybody. Just follow your heart. And you're wonderful and beautiful.
So, the one thing that was very evident about what we lived through with COVID was that art was very important in our lives. And I'm curious, in your life, what was that for you? What was the book or the album, or what was that piece of art that you still come back to that you love so much?
Oh, in COVID, I listened to a lot, like a lot more music, but it wasn't just like a certain album. I listened to a lot of like meditation music, like instrumental. I streamed a ton of 528 hertz music, 428 hertz, like the healing frequencies. I tune those in. And then also, this is going to sound crazy, but the birds sing to me. Like, the birds have a symphony, and I feel like the tunes that the birds sing, the frequencies of the birds' songs are healing. And over COVID, I really tuned into that, and the healing nature of the healing elements of nature is what I want to say. There's sacred geometry all around us when you look outside, and I really tuned into those patterns when I had the time to to be my I am presence, if that makes any sense.
It certainly does. So let me ask you this. Everyone has a perception of you, an idea of who they think you are, your family, your friends, those that read your book. But ultimately, you live your life. You have a perception of yourself. Who do you think you are?
I think I'm, like I said, I'm an activator. I'm somebody who wants everyone to see the best in themselves. And I've learned to see the best in myself. So sometimes I am hard on myself, but I'm here to love. And if I'm not feeling a love vibration, then I know there's something that needs to be worked on, and I'm a warrior in that mission, that I want to expose things that aren't right, and I want to, make this world a brighter place. And I think that if everybody who knew me understood how deep I feel that and what a warrior I am for everyone's happiness, I think that would be a huge gift, but not everyone's ready to take that on. So I've learned to temper and just be in the moment and see where I can work my magic in that way. But I'm a very spiritual feeling person, and I just adore my life. I don't take it for granted, not one second.
Beautiful. So, Julie, if anybody wants to pick up your book, Life of Love, and anything related to your world, where's the best place on the web for them to go?
Amazon has my book. The Kindle copy is available. They're still working out some of the artwork in my print copy. So hopefully by the time this airs, the print copy will be available, because I really feel like my book is so interactive. Like, you're going to want to fill in the blanks. I have worksheets in there. It's interactive is what I'm trying to say. So, if you're a Kindle person, I respect that, but I would encourage people to get the print edition, and you're going to flip through it. You're going to be drawn to certain sections. It's all about finding your joy, taking care of yourself, and then taking care of your relationship. So, yeah, I hope that people can check it out and get some joy from it and just have a happier life. That's what I'm about. I hate that there's people that are suffering, and anything I can do to lighten the load that's what I'm here for. So, and also my website is youneedapeptalk.com, and there's links to my book and other resources on there too.
Wonderful, Julie. Hey, thank you for taking time out. I really appreciate it. Good luck with them.
Joe, I adored our conversation, and thank you for interviewing me. I do appreciate your time, and your podcast is so great. I can't wait to listen.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, spirituality, and music around the globe. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.